Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Appalachian Eclectic. And I saw a video where I was talking about the new name of the new channel, and you saw me working on this cherry dough bowl here. Now I've got everything roughed out on it, and in this video I'm going to show you guys some interesting ways, well, an interesting way to, if I don't break it, to finish drying, especially a bowl blank or a small piece of wood. It's not cost effective for a large piece. So this log had been cut a long time, and then I got it kind of roughed out, been letting it dry, air dry for a while, but you can see cracks starting to develop here, and I actually am going to be doing something really cool with these cracks. So I actually want them to open up a little bit more, but I need to make sure this piece of wood's totally dry before I do what I'm going to do here, because otherwise it won't look right, because it'll continue to open up and my repair work will have been for nothing. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to weigh this, see what our starting weight is. £3 pounds 7 ounces. So that will give me a baseline to know how dry it is. Now this method, I'd heard about it before. I've tried it. It works really good. It works actually surprisingly well. And what we're going to do is we're going to take denatured alcohol, and we're going to submerge this bowl in denatured alcohol for 3 or 4 hours, maybe overnight. And what's going to happen is this the wood is going to soak up all the denatured alcohol. The alcohol is going to displace the water that is in this bowl. Then when we take it out and let it dry for probably a day, maybe less, the alcohol is going to evaporate very fast. So since the water's already been displaced, once the alcohol evaporates, I'm going to have a very dry piece of wood that I can continue finishing to my final product. I went to, if anyone wants to try this, 1 gallon of denatured alcohol was around $20 to $30, depending on where I priced it. 5 gallons of denatured alcohol is $50. So definitely worth your while to go ahead and get 5 gallons. And I will lose some alcohol to evaporation every time I use it, but anything that's left over I'll put back in my can, seal it, and we'll be able to reuse it. And one of the nice things about doing this is you can see how pretty the wood is in the alcohol. Now I should have got a little bit smaller container. Hopefully I'm going to be able to get this bowl totally submerged. I'm going to have to get various sizes of containers for doing this. Alright, there we go. And you can see the alcohol, the buoyancy is a little bit different. It doesn't float as much in the alcohol as it would in the water. But now we've got the alcohol in there, you can see how absolutely beautiful this piece of cherry is. And I love getting an idea for what the finished product is going to look like. So we're just going to leave this bowl in here. You're always going to want to make sure and cover up your alcohol. That will help lose as little as possible to evaporation. I'm gonna go get some saran wrap probably and saran wrap around the edges here, and we're gonna let it set for a while. All right, so our bowl has been in here for about 4 hours now, 5. So it's had a chance to displace, in theory, any water that's been in here. So we are going to go ahead and pull it out. I'm gonna let it sit here overnight and dry, and I'm gonna go ahead and pour my denatured alcohol back in the can. Keep me from losing any more than I have to from evaporation. And tomorrow morning we'll come and check this thing out and see what our weight is. Okay, so I let this dry, and now our weight is about 3.5 ounces. So I lost a little over 2.5 ounces, which is a whole lot of water. And I did do something that normally you wouldn't do to help speed dry it. I did put it in the oven at 150. And I did that for a reason, because now you can see the cracks that have developed in here. I'm doing something with the crack. So I actually wanted this bowl to crack slightly. Now that it's dry, we're going to continue to shape it. And when I was shaping it before, you can see I've got 2 screw holes where I've screwed it down. And so I'm going to screw it again, finish shaping everything, and then I'm going to tape down, or actually I'm going to go ahead and take down the bottom here so that I have a wider base and you can't see the screw holes. Alright, so we're almost finished with our cherry bowl. I've got a couple of high spots inside that they're just bugging me a little bit, and I'm going to finish shaping the outside edge of the bowl. Then we are going to take it in and get started on the final part, which is going to be a lot of fun. I'll show you guys what we're doing with that. Alright, so we moved inside, and like I was showing you guys earlier, these cracks, especially since I speed dried it, I probably could have taken a year to dry this, taken it down a little bit of time, and it would have not cracked, but it might have anyway. But I think this is a cool method I learned years ago and have been doing, that you can still make something even more interesting out of a piece of wood that's not perfect. So what I'm going to do for this bowl is right here I have high grade crushed turquoise. And I have done this in the past using lower quality stuff, but it's definitely worth your time to go ahead and get the higher quality stones. I also got lucky when we were at the Gemstone Festival in Spruce Pine. It's a really big national gemstone festival. One of the vendors there had turquoise that was already crushed, and so you can see how there's different sizes in here, everything from fine powder to a little bit bigger stuff. And that's one of the keys when you are doing any kind of stone inlay. You want to have plenty of little tiny stuff to fill in every little crevice, so that you notice it. Miss Corey's handed me some of the other stuff we picked up, some lower grade rough cut opal, and you can see the color, and that's real good. So this is going to be a project for another bowl, probably one out of a little bit darker wood, maybe some walnut, some maple, and crush this, and I'll have to crush this myself and put it in. So it's really fun. Never think just because something's got a crack or doesn't look right that it can't be made into something even better. All right, so the first thing I've got to do is I've got my Dremel tool with a little brush here. I've got to make sure I get all the sawdust out of all the cracks, so that my turquoise will go in as good as possible. Alright, so I've got the first part of this mostly done. You can see how I was real careful to get the powder as far in there as I could using the paintbrush, no stick. And now that I've got the crack filled, I'm just taking my finger and really rubbing it in there so that I know that this is, my crack is totally filled with turquoise. So I'm just going to keep brushing and get as much of this off as I can so that I do not waste any. And I need to be able to have a good visual on my line of, or my turquoise filled cracks here, so that I know where they're at. And I want the turquoise to be just ever so slightly up above the line of the wood. All right. And I think that that should have it. Now if you'll notice, I've got a bowl here where I've been putting stuff back in, also this piece of tin foil, and there is a reason for that. Any quality gemstones, even semi-precious like turquoise, obviously is not cheap, and the graded turquoise that I have here runs generally around $10 to $15 up to $20 per gram, and I've got about 150 grams here, so that's a lot of money in stone that I don't want to, get knocked down, table cracks or on the floor. So I keep the bowl under it, and then where I've made a mess, I'll be able to just pick up my tin foil and put it right back into my cup. Now I've got the turquoise in these cracks here. Now to get it to set, I'm going to be using CA glue. CA glue it's another name for super glue. However, this is thin CA glue. It's about the consistency of water. Do not try to do any kind of inlay like this with regular super glue. Definitely not gel super glue, but even just normal crazy glue is too thick. And what will happen is that thicker stuff will hit the fine powder and it will just float right out of your crack. Just go ahead and get the right super glue if you're going to try to do this. I also have some activator here. It's basically acetone is what it is, but what it does is it causes that super glue to set up instantly, and even harder than super glue normally sets up. So when I spray this on there, it's going to be nice and hard. I don't have to worry about anything sitting there and slowly floating to the surface. And then I also have some debonder, which is if I make a that will pretty much one of the only things besides mechanical like sanding that will get the super glue off. I also have these super tiny tips here, and I've got a lot of them because you can't really reuse them. Now one thing you want to do, I could have put some kind of sealer next to the cracks that would help to keep from discoloring the wood, but that's one reason that I build a little bit of a ridge up on where the crack is, so that I can sand down below that level. All right, so I think that covers most of it here. I just need to, these are not. All right, well, this is going to get interesting. I'm going to go get a little bit of tape so that I can tape this on, because these tips, even though the guy at Bling Woodworking told me these were correct, they're supposed to screw on and they are not. So I'm going to have to tape my tip on. So let me find some tape and get this taken care of, and we'll get started. Hopefully this will stand the time so that I can get this done. we'll see. And you can see, I'm not sure if you can see it, but I can tell where that super glue was a little bit thicker and it wasn't all the way dried. It's now pretty much instantaneously dried. And you can see how fast it's evaporating off because it's simply acetone. And so now I'm gonna give it just a minute. And for this part, I'm gonna go ahead and go sand this down a little bit so you can see how it's looking. I like to keep an eye as I go. So hopefully it's gonna turn out okay. So now you can see, even though those cracks were really small, that turquoise really shows up good. And there might be a place, all right, let's go here in the light. There might be a place or two where I didn't quite get it on thick enough. I'm gonna go look in the better light, but I can just add a little bit more superfine powder and do it again. And it adds just a little pop, especially once I get the oil on here, it's gonna be pretty phenomenal. All right, now we are on to my favorite part. Paper towels there. So for most of my bowls or anything butcher blocks that's going to be possibly used with food, I prefer to use walnut oil. Mahoney is one of my favorite. And you can see there's, you know, a lighter and a darker. With this having turquoise in it, I don't want to darken this cherry. This cherry is too pretty to put any kind of color on. So I'm going to use the natural finish. Walnut oil is food safe. Like I said, still can't put it in the dishwasher, but I prefer oils, waxes to any kind of polyurethanes, or anytime I can, I always go with some kind of a natural finish instead of any kind of varnish type product. So we are going to get our walnut oil on it. And then after that dries, which walnut oil does have a hardener, it does slowly dry, I will put some of my oil wax finish over it, which will help finish out the pop. But for now, it'll take at least one coat. It might take more of our walnut oil. And now I hope you can really see with the oil going on it, that you can really see the turquoise start to come out. And I love this part. This is one of my favorite parts because it's where you can really see all the grain and the wood, and you can see this is dry. This first coat is definitely going to take a whole lot of oil. And I know the GoPro doesn't pick up the color super well, so I will put some pictures on here in a few minutes that I take with a better camera, my phone, because phone cameras are ridiculous now. And you can see how this walnut oil, I mean, it is just soaking it up, and it's going to dry. It's going to take a few coats for this to soak completely in. And that is just absolutely phenomenal. And you can see the turquoise now showing up really good. Once I get it out in the light, I think you guys will really be able to get an idea. That's one thing that I love the larger cracks with the turquoise, because you can really see the different colors in the turquoise. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a few more coats on this over the next couple hours, and we'll come back and take a look at the final polish when I put the oil wax finish on. All right, so looks a whole lot better now. Everything's popping real good, all the color, and it took about, I guess, about 8 coats of oil, because being the first time it was ever oiled, it was thirsty. So the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to put some wax on it, and this is Mahoney's brand wax again, and that's just going to help lock in the oil and the moisture, so that you just don't have to oil it quite as often. It will also leave a nice finish on it, and you put this on kind of like car wax. You just put it on until you can see it. Alright, now I'm going to let this dry for just a few minutes, and then we'll get another clean dry cloth and we will buff it out. Alright, I'll let this sit for about 30 minutes now. Really better let it sit an hour or longer, but I'm just going to go ahead and buff it a little bit, because I'll probably put a second coat on it anyway. And you can see the wax really gives it a nice satin sheen, evens everything out. And there we go. I'm kind of happy with this one. I think it turned out pretty good. The colors all show up really well now. You can see the bigger places easier, but the smaller cracks in person, it just gives it just a little bit of something interesting to look at, and I think it looks pretty good. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Now you know how to inlay a semi-precious stone into a piece of wood if you ever want to. Really fun. Take some time. You know, take your time. It's not that hard. So we'll be doing some more maple bowls, and if any cracks show up on those, I've got some other stones I want to be using to play around with, which is the fun part. Alright guys, well, make sure and like, subscribe, and share. If you're interested in buying this bowl or any others, send me a message, let me know. I'm starting a wait list because I do have quite a few people interested, but it's something I really enjoy doing, and being here at the Deer Rescue, it's a great place for inspiration. It really is. Alright everybody, see you next time.